We all know cash-strapped South Africans and cash-strapped workers are going to have to spend even more simply to get to work and to move around. Record fuel price increases mean that taxi operators, bus companies and others are passing those rising costs on to customers. According to Transaction Capital, which finances minibus taxi fleets around the country, taxi fares have increased by more than 9% since 2013. Well, National Taxi Alliance spokesperson, Mr. Theo Malele, joining us now. Mr. Malele, good to have you with us. And this is always the unfortunate part of any kind of increases, is that it's going to affect the consumer. Good morning to you. Is there any way that we can help the consumer out in a case like this?
Well, good morning. Yes, these are difficult times. They call for, special measures to be deployed in order to assist the commuters who already are paying far more than 10% of their disposable income on public transport. As the National Taxi Alliance, we've been pondering on this subject matter for quite some time now. Although I must indicate that it's not been easy for us to can actually cap a tariff increase, given that the price of fuel is like a moving target. You cannot properly plan with kind of movements. And be that as it may, what we have come up with are proposals to government to say that government needs to push out throughout the window these discriminatory practices against the biggest public transport mover, and start rather subsidizing the passengers, so that we in return are able to can charge market-related fares, because currently the repayment of these vehicles on a monthly basis still stands where it is, even if our income, our margins have actually been severely squeezed, and we really need some form of reprieve, and if possible as well, there has to be some exemption on the, some of the levies in order for us to be able to can breathe. Otherwise, it is getting difficult day in, day out, to a point that we would be left with no other option other than to take government to court if it keeps on, pulling its legs when it has to address the challenges facing the taxi industry, and we are capable of that.
You've raised two issues. You've raised two very important issues. Let's just pick up on the one for a moment. We'll talk about the cost of a taxi and a fleet of taxis. That going up, as we know, interest rate goes up, lending rates go up, so that increases the rate of the repayments for an actual vehicle as well. But you mentioned the levy. Theo, help me understand. I imagine you're talking about the fuel levy as well. Would you support what the AA is calling for, a relook at the fuel levy that we're all having to pay every time we go to a garage?
Yes, we certainly will support that course of action, because if you closely look at the actual formation of the fuel price itself, you would realize that a greater percentage of it is made out of different levies, and yeah, certainly we will actually look into that aspect, and also impress upon the state that there has been talk around the wasteful expenditure that has been experienced at the Road Accident Fund, and thus far nothing changeable has actually been done in order to arrest that kind of a decline. So it is such malpractices that we really feel that have to be properly looked at in order for us to be able to have a mitigating way of trying to soften the blow to our passengers.
Just before I let you go, just brief final answer if you can, Theo. You mentioned if there isn't a way forward, there could be court action involved here. Where in the line on the sand is that line at the moment? How much longer can the National Taxi Alliance keep going? Because we know that there's these concerns around possible 40 Rand per litre. We could hit that in about a month or two. So where's the line in the sand for the National Taxi Alliance?
Well, it is not very far away, because just last week we had engagements broadly seeking fresher mandates, and the sentiments within the taxi industry are such that something very drastic needs to be done, because we cannot afford to be doing, going out into the streets, and then the results will still remain the same. So the only best way that we have realized actually makes our government to listen is the litigious process, for which we are intending to step onto if government really is not going to come to the party and assist us to soften the blow to our passengers.
Yeah, and it's all about the passengers who are feeling the pinch at the moment. It's a very interesting stat that you, Theo, threw out at the beginning of this, that most commuters are spending more than 10% of their monthly income just to pay for public transport. It's a horrifying number. But as always, Theo Malele, I thank you for your time, spokesperson from the National Taxi Alliance.